Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
Hello. It is the day after Tuesday and the day before Thursday, so you know what we're doing here. Or something like that. It is the Mark Order Podcast with the standard Ryan hard cut of the music. So it is me, Ryan, joined, as always, by my co-host. I want to say mostess, but co-hostess is a woman, and I wasn't saying that.
Well, now I'm just thinking of like hostess, like ding dongs and ho hos.
That's even better. I was just gonna say co-hostess with the mostest, but you're co-hostess. I don't know. It's Asian Joe. How you doing, Joe?
I am doing well, Ryan. How are you?
I'm grand. I'm a grand old flag. I'm a high volume flag.
Are you Grand Slam grand or?
Oh, that's a good volley there. Nice forehand shot back by you.
No. I'm not getting.
You didn't mean to lob it up there for me?
Nope. I play pickleball now, so use pickleball terms.
They don't use the same terms?
I mean, some of them, yeah. He
Like
working the word. He working the phrase the kitchen.
Yeah, we're cooking in the kitchen tonight.
There you go.
Come on, I can always work in my puns. How was your week?
You know, the week had been a grind. It's a short week. Tomorrow's my Friday. Since Friday I head out for my road trip to Denver. So I will be inside Casa Bonita. I will love it.
Well, the Pirate Cove, so scary.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing this weekend. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
You know, we got Scott George in the chat calling this the Asian Joe podcast, and I don't know if I approve of that, Scott.
It's not the worst name.
It is. It is the worst name.
No, it's not Ryan Show.
It's the Ryan Show.
You already have Ryan Guesses Wrestling. Give me something.
Yeah, I mean, we can have segment for you. You don't get the whole show. We can have Joe Knows, and it's when I tell you something you know.
Oh. Okay.
I mean, I know you're sad because the Cornhuskers lost this weekend.
I don't remember what you're talking about.
I'm assuming I'm correct. I actually don't remember if I am.
Well, good. We totally did not lose to Tony Khan's alma mater.
Well, what was his alma mater?
Illinois.
Okay. I see how little I know. Fake Patrick Mahomes not coming in clutch.
Another week, another game, another opportunity. All good. My
favorite thing is that he denies trying to be Patrick Mahomes.
I do like watch the little videos that people stitch together of like his comparisons as far as mannerisms and his celebration and his pre-game warm up, and it's pretty funny.
I mean, everything from the haircut to the style to it's all. And he's admitted that Patrick Mahomes is like his guy. So like,
hey,
it's just funny.
He's successful. Why not mimic someone who is successful?
That's fair. I actually can't argue. Well, typically you mimic maybe playing style. You don't tend to mimic the whole thing. Scott's saying Ryan bails after 15 minutes. Ryan bailed for personal reasons and was here last week having not even seen Dynamite. That's how committed he is. Kate, yeah, she's big time on us again. Hi, Kylie. Kate is actually at Grand Slam. Apparently, the media got great seats right behind the curtain, so they got to see none of anyone's entrance.
And they get to sit there for another 2 hours? I didn't realize it was double taping. Or collision taping.
I knew it was because typically they used to do it before Collision. They did a 2-hour Rampage. I knew it was a double taping, but I forgot that they advertised all the matches at once. So like when I see Jack Perry thing, I'm like, and we're Moxley and Darby for like a minute. I'm like, how long is this overrun gonna be tonight? And I'm like, oh yeah, he's on Collision.
Yeah,
Like,
I got confused initially too because they released that graphic. I'm like, there's 10 matches,
and they've never done their
I mean,
their graphics like that.
yeah, and they rarely ever announce that many matches ahead of Collision. It's usually, matches are announced Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, it's fine. I'm not complaining, but just very odd. Was there any real wrestling news this week? And I'm not being sarcastic.
No, I don't know.
AEW related.
I think the AEW related part.
I think it was quiet overall.
I think so. I don't know. I mean, there's a talk, but there's the Lucha Brothers talk again.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear they're going to WWE.
Yeah,
so
whenever they can.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this from day one. They will if they're allowed to stay as a team in WWE. I mean, they'll do fine. They'll do fantastic as singles wrestlers there too. But I like them as a team, and my fear with them in WWE is that they'll get broken up because that's just what WWE does.
I told you my fear is more that they're just stuck in a vortex of wrestling other.
That's true. That does happen too. But they're so good that my hope is that they get away from that. But there's just a chance that like they get broken up, and I like them as a team, and I liked in AEW that they would float in and out of singles to team, but you never broke up. But kind of like how New Day is in WWE. Like New Day is like the lone exception of the team, and up until recently, they were looking like they were going to break them up too. But New Day was like the one exception of they could do singles, they could do whatever, and they wouldn't break them up.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with them.
Yeah. But I don't think there's any
no, nothing new. I think a lot of it just like updates on where things stand with so-and-so's contract, and nothing really came out this week about the TV deal yet. So everything's kind of in the holding pattern.
I mean, Andrew Zarian of Matt Men podcast, who is usually very on this stuff. He doesn't tend to say something if he doesn't have it, has said that yes, AEW pay-per-views will in fact be on Max. You could still buy them regularly if you want, but if you get the Max subscription, they'll be on there. I love that.
I'm kind of wondering about that because I mean I guess I saw that in the news of random aggregation and things like that. But when they announced tonight on the show about how pay-per-views are going away from Bleacher Report and being only available like on Triller and on YouTube and stuff, I was wondering if that had to do with something.
I think the talk is that it's all just going to go to Max,
right?
But they're not ready to announce that yet. So like, I mean, I guess you could have waited to announce the Bleacher Report thing, but I don't know. I stopped using Bleacher Report as soon as Triller became available. I almost did YouTube this last time, but Triller offered the 2-for-1 purchase, not 2-for-1, but 2 in like half price.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, that's a better deal. But yeah, I mean, I don't think
Mueller's off the hook for a while.
Oh, that joke gets to go away. Damn it. Well, we'll make him the Max guy then. It's all related company. I mean, that's the thing. Bleacher Report and Max are the same company, so if they, it's not hard for them. I'm not surprised they're taking even regardless of the deal. I'm not surprised that Bleacher Report stops doing pay-per-views because they are trying to get everything on Max. It's like the Max. Like it no longer makes sense for Max to have for Bleacher Report to be a purchasable pay-per-view place because they'd rather people just use a 1-month trial of Max before they would use that, because even though it hurts money, you're hoping to get as many people on Max as you can, that then just have them forget to cancel or get hooked on whatever's on there. At least that's my opinion on why you would do it. Scott thinks they'll announce the TV deal next at the the 5-year anniversary show. That would be if you're allowed to announce it, that's the time to announce it. I thought Grand Slam would be fun. I still think to me, it's your big show, but there is something to be said, like 5 years, and we've got 3 more. And you're like,
With a 4-year option.
with a 4th year option.
Was that your Tony Khan impression?
Yeah, I can't do Tony Khan. His voice is too high for me. I can't get my voice that high, so I'm not even going to try. I would be screeching. It would hurt.
I think he hit his register that he hit when he yelled Giannis's name.
Oh, my God. So, yeah, I'm not even going to try. Did you, before we go to commercials, because there isn't a lot of news, so it's going to be a quick news week, but I'm going to ask, did you watch any of the Vince documentary?
I haven't yet, no. I was too busy rewatching the episodes of The League.
What season?
I finished them up. I rewatched it from beginning to end.
That show fell apart in the last season.
Yeah, it was yeah. The ending was, and the finale was kind of flat.
Where what's his name? How am I forgetting all these guys' names? You have Taco, you have Pete, you have, what was Nick Kroll's guy's name?
Ruxin. Yeah.
When Ruxin's wife dies.
Yeah, that was weird.
It gets weird. But the season, I think in the last season they were just like, fuck it, let's do whatever we want to do and see how it goes. But I loved the first 4 seasons of that show.
It's just it's sketch comedy. What's that?
El Cunado.
The Lucha Libre match of.
Jason Mantzoukas is hilarious, and he's great in that show as Rafi.
Well, he plays the same character, and I feel like in everything he does.
Well, he got typecasted. He nailed that, and then. But the funny thing is, I like him on his podcast. How Did This Get Made?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like a germaphobe, and he's like all this, and then he plays these disgusting characters.
Well, yeah, like his Brooklyn Nine-Nine character.
Oh, he was great at that too. But at least his Brooklyn Nine-Nine character was like an intelligent character. He just was in too deep for too long. Big G is assuming it'll be next week too. Maybe they'll have Jason Mantzoukas announce it.
Some things you can't see.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch the Vince documentary. I read a couple reviews.
I mean, we kind of know what the story is. I don't think anything will surprise us.
Well, that's the reviews I read. Is that he doesn't try to humanize himself, even though he bitches in his statement that he released this week that this isn't the real. They're confusing the Vince McMahon with the character. It's like, but he apparently specifically says you're not going to find the real me. It's like, well, then you can't complain that that people don't differentiate. So he doesn't try to humanize himself, and there's just, from what I read, just wasn't overly challenging. They did put it's not like they let him off the hook. It's very negative to him. But not in a fun way. And because of when it was done, it only one episode has to do with the big serious stuff. So I'm until I see someone post that I trust saying this is a watch, I think it's a skip on my part.
That's fair.
Well, that's just my humblest of humble opinions. I'm not trying to. If you watch it and you like it, that's great. Tell me. Not just you in chat.
But you know what wasn't a skip was Grand Slam tonight. So when we'll talk about that later, that'll be that show.
What a great segue. But before we can talk about Grand Slam, we have to talk. Well, we don't have to talk at all.
We have to serve up some commercials.
We have to be the only show to do our commercial break in the first 15 minutes of we're part of the Shining Wizards Network, and on the Shining Wizards Network, there's all these great shows that you should be listening to. So these commercials will tell you all about them. However, if you're you guys are the best of the best of the best, or the best of the worst, however you want to say it.
Best of the best with honors.
There you go. And we want to support you with actual money, green, or if you're Canadian or British, multicolored. Well, then what you do is you go to Pro Wrestling Tees. That's prowrestlingtees.com/markorderpod, or any of our social. There's a link tree. And you go and you buy one of our 4 shirts. Name and logo, just name one side, just name with logo on the back, and then logo, name, and pocket with logo on the back. I think it's logo on the back. I don't actually remember. Buy one of these 4 shirts. I am not a shirt salesman. I never will be. Plain tees all day, baby. But go buy one of our 4 shirts. Eventually, we probably will try to switch it up again and maybe put in a different color so we stand out. I'm thinking neon green personally, but do that. But after you do that first. Go spend lots and lots of money on us. After you do that, what you do is you go listen to these wonderful shows. And I am stalling as I turn up the music on the Shining Wizards Network.
We'd like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to the Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is the Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the Squared Circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events, brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
You like your music heavy? Then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is Radioactive Metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway!
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums.
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
Because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at Mark Order Pod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast. They're funny guys. That I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast for two men, Duke Bags, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport. All right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than Duke? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Oh, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the Year of Duke and Rowe podcast in the back with the boys, you piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit. Slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
You're just talking to yourself, Ryan. You're muted.
I double muted myself. I don't think I've done that before. Oh, well.
Doesn't that cross each other out?
Is it like a negative times a negative? I don't know.
I just know you can't triple stamp and double stamp.
Damn it. Logic is solid. But we are back to talk AEW Dynamite Grand Slam from Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York. I was at this venue the first 2 years, and then it was fun. It's a few days off of work, and I didn't feel like taking it to go see the Dynamite. Because it's a couple hour drive up, and then it's a couple hour drive back. But Collision afterwards probably won't get done till after midnight, so I wouldn't get home till like 4 a.m. It's like, yeah, I don't need that. So okay, you know what? This is one of those shows where I'm going to start with the start. Because it was the thing I think most people were curious about. The first person to walk to the ring tonight was a Mr. Nigel McGuinness. He walks out, does his thing, gets in the ring, and then Bryan Danielson's music plays. But there's no Bryan. Dun, dun, dun. I guess he's not cleared. So Nigel tells the ref to count to 10. And if he hits 10, then Brian forfeits and Nigel wins the belt. And even Tony's like, I don't think he, oh no, it's Excalibur. He's like, I don't think he gets the belt. But like, at least, saying, so we get to like 4, I think. Oh, no. Yeah, you're right. They do it the other way around. So I think we get to like 7. And then all of a sudden, it's the final countdown. But it doesn't start with that. But the final countdown starts playing. And Bryan Danielson walks out in his gear. And the place goes wild. They love to sing along to the final countdown. And we get the Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness match. Now, I'm going to not lie to you here, Joe. I was a little nervous going into this. And nervous is maybe the right term, but it's the only term I have. Because I wasn't sure it was going to perform. And it's not, both these guys are obviously, Bryan is considered by some the greatest of all time. Nigel is just an amazing wrestler, was on that path before, unfortunately, life gets in the way. But it had been so long since Nigel wrestled a singles match. So long since they wrestled. And Danielson is beat up. I just wasn't sure. And was this, I'm not going to sit here and be like, hey, this was a 5-star classic, but it was a really good match. Like, it was a lot of fun. Now, I don't know their feud that well, so I know they hit some like nostalgia stuff, but I couldn't predict. Kate did not cry. I want to confirm. I had texted her, "Did you cry?" And she replied, "I did not, but I was filled with glee."
I'm questioning her fandom of Nigel.
Hold on, I'm telling her I just reported she didn't cry. So, hello, Jesse. No Kate, so I can say hi. So I can't speak to the nostalgia spots, but apparently they hit a bunch of them that were a lot of fun. But the quality of those nostalgia shots was that I didn't know them, and the match was still very good. And then there was that one non-nostalgia shot where they had Nigel was like upside down in the corner, and Danielson was hitting him that way, and then Nigel flipped over and almost like Scorpion Deathlock Danielson. It was like it was awesome. It ended with Nigel submitting to the LaBelle Lock, with him saying thank you right before he taps. Some people thought they saw fuck you. Commentary said thank you. Some people thought they saw fuck you.
I'm gonna go with the latter.
You think it was fuck you?
Because it got censored, so I feel like they censored it for a reason.
That's a good point. But either way, great ending. So, Joe, 2 questions for you. And Eric is kind of beating me to it. Where were the clams? And how'd you like the match?
The clams, I think, were probably all dug up. They might have been clamless. The match itself, though, to your point, and with those caveats of Nigel having wrestled in, what was it, like 13 or however many years it's been, and Danielson being banged up legitimately, I don't think that we could have expected them to, have one of their classics that they had when they wrestled, 10 times or whatever it was before. But I do think you got a great match for where both of them are at in their careers. And I feel like it was very, I don't know if it's symbolic or poetic about having this kind of match so close to the 5-year anniversary of AEW when they were both such stalwarts of Ring of Honor and building that to what it was.
I will say you're right. There's no argument. It wasn't like, again, their class, some of the classes, but it was very good. I think to compliment Nigel, I would not have known it had been 11 years since he wrestled his last singles match. I think actually maybe more than 11 years at this point. So good for him to know to like, I also wouldn't have known that he was at one point one of the best in the world, but like he performed. And actually I feel bad even saying that I would have known that, because he wrestles an interesting style that I didn't realize. Like, and I think it takes a little bit to get used to it. But it was a lot of fun. It was very good. After the match,
I will
Daddy
say that.
Cage.
Sorry.
Yes,
I was going to say that for being the way the match put together, and I thought Nigel for being a one-man, match builder, because he'd been building this match on commentary for years. He had to, he built it up with in-ring promo to, Brian didn't come out and say anything. I think that was a nice reminder of how good Nigel is in-ring and out-ring, and being able to build a match by yourself, basically. It was pretty impressive, and I think I didn't understand the count, the him wanting to count Brian out, because how do you start the count before a bell rings?
So that was my question too, but I didn't have an answer to that. My thing is, and you raised up a point there with him building the feud on his own. I saw a couple of people, more than a couple of people online, talking about where's like, how is anyone expected to know the story? If you don't know ROH, you don't know this, you don't know that. Nigel has been building this story for his entire run at AEW. He's constantly taking shots at Bryan Danielson. And people are like, well, he does it on Collision, and that's not as big of a show. It doesn't matter. It's one of their programs.
I think AEW very much feels like a lot of AEW fans, I feel like, probably watch the majority of their product. And so I think that's maybe what they lean into, that they probably anticipate that most of the fans watch most of the shows and are familiar.
Exactly. So, why would he, so he has built this. There is a story there. If you knew nothing of their past, you would have several years of McGinnis just shitting on Danielson and making this. And truthfully, this was entirely a one-way feud, and that was part of the feud, is that McGinnis couldn't get Danielson out of his head. He just couldn't. It was never about Danielson. It was always about McGinnis. Like, that's the feud. And Robert Matthews has a point. He was just playing head games. There is a head game there to him saying, hey, I'm going to do the count. I also think if you want to apply logic there, you can say he knew by doing that he was going to force Danielson to come out because Danielson wouldn't suffer the loss. So, but it was always about Nigel. So people complain, well, Danielson never talked about Nigel. That was the point. This was and guys, it's a feud built over years that had like a 3-week build. That was on a TV show. It's okay that it's not like it's okay that your champ wasn't like the centerfold of the center, wasn't the center of the story, that he was the auxiliary character to this. It's okay. It's a one-time deal because his story was at the end of the night. Like, he has a story, and that was at the end of the night. I didn't think the title was on the line, but free. But there is some confusion. Jesse thinks it was. Nigel said he'd have the belt if Danielson was counted out. Kyle Sparks saying it's not. Kyle Sparks did point out that it used to be a rule, or sometimes there's a rule that if the person doesn't answer, you do a 10 count, and then they forfeit the match. That's like a once out of every 100 times that rule gets used.
And you can't win a belt off a count out. We all know that.
Yeah, so even if he wins the match, can't win a belt. So I don't know. But it was, I think, okay, hey, the All-American Robbie Matthews. Okay, well, your name says Robert Matthews, so I was just calling you what I saw in there. I'm Kyle, who being the ROH love, the guy who loves ROH. Probably confirm what I saw a lot of people is that for ROH diehards, this was something good. This wasn't a why did they do this? This was a oh, thank God they did this. Which is nice. You didn't want it to be him come back and say, hey, you want to come back and have this match, and then all the ROH diehards be like, that was terrible. You killed the legacy. Why you doing? Not like, no.
I'm sure Kyle enjoyed watching that match more than he did watching Michigan State lose.
You wouldn't know about losses.
True.
The All-American Robbie Matthews wants to know, asked about the FU at the end. Commentary said thank you. People online, some people said thank you, some people said fuck you. Joe believes fuck you. I'll go with fuck you because it did get bleeped. Joe is right. It got censored on the replay. See, now Kyle's just being nitpicky. You could win the pure title on a count out. This wasn't a pure title match, damn it. But after the match, you had Daddy Christian come out, and he's going to sign the contract, which I won't lie. I like that that's part of the thing because they're clearly ripped off Money in the Banks, like cash in anytime, which is fair. Wrestling rips off. The Royal Rumble is the ripoff of a Battle Royal, just slightly twisted. Like it's what all this is. But I like that you have to sign it because that's another like thing. And the reason that matters is that Kip Sabian sneaks out behind Christian and steals the pen so he can't sign it and then runs away. And then there's this shot when Christian's chasing him where he flips back a curtain and it's Claudio and Pac just standing there staring. And I'm like, were they just there all night? And then he chases him some more. So nothing happens there, but it was just a fun little moment of, hey. We then move on to the FTW Championship match of Hook versus Roddy Strong. Listen, this was a fine match. A lot of back and forth. There was I guess it was a judo throw into the chair or something. Like it was this weird toss into a chair that was vicious. I don't actually know the rules of an FTW match, and I think there's not supposed to be rules. But then why wasn't the Undisputed Kingdom interfering the entire time? Like that always bothers me. Hook did win. Well, so Hook did win. And then they shook his hand. Roddy shook his hand and Bennett shook his hand. So there's that. I didn't see if Taven did. I didn't think he did. And then after the match, Hook retires the FTW Championship, which everyone was thrilled about. The FTW Championship worked at a time when they had no other belts. When all you had was your championship. I think I could be wrong, but I think it predates the TNT in the company. But even if it didn't, you had your championship, your TNT, and that was it. And your tag. And it was a nice way to give it to someone who had you want to put some shine to, but you didn't want to put one of your belts on. You have the championship, the TNT, the international, the continental. You don't need it. You have the trios now too. Like you don't need it. So I'm glad that got retired. Just saying it was a little weird. The place that was smart to do it at Grand Slam, so close to where Taz was from. But yeah, it was a little awkward of a transition, but still, overall, happy it's retired. What are your thoughts on the match and retiring the FTW?
I think the match was good, especially for the placement on the card. I thought it kind of built upon the first match where it kind of ramped up as far as a different style. It was similar grappling, but taking up a notch a little bit quicker with younger people. I thought it could have used more backbreakers by Roderick. I didn't think there were enough backbreakers in it. But overall, I thought it was a good match. I guess, it felt like a collision rampage match to me, I suppose. And with the belt, I'm glad that he finally retired it. I think what you said, we all wanted that to happen. The belt, like you said, to your point, was really a launching pad for Hook and for younger talent. That for Hook himself, it became more of an anchor as as the years went by, and he couldn't really step away out of that shadow of being the FCW champion. And it's like, why would you want to be a champion for this long of a belt that's not recognized, it's not sanctioned, and you're limiting your growth opportunities going for TNT titles and being a world title holder or international title holder. So I think this really will help open the door for him to grow more as a singles wrestler.
I agree. And I think it just he needs to move past being Taz's son, and that's not a knock. You just do. And continuing to only be the FTW guy was never going to get you past Taz's son. Plus, as Big G is pointing out, Big G would like to see Hook take TNT off Jack Perry. Like, you weren't having let's go back to that. Big G wasn't the only one that hold on. Gotta get this right. Hold on. And the All-American Robbie Matthews agrees. TNT title for Hook. But you couldn't have Hook was never gonna go for those titles while he held the FTW. For whatever reason, they treated it as like a title that, except for rare occasions, you try not to cross over like that. It frees them up tremendously.
It's like,
listen, Rod,
I'm gonna say
Go ahead.
it's like $1 Million Man and his $1 Million Championship, right? How often did he hold any other belt besides his own belt that he created that wasn't really an official belt?
Yeah. I mean, and it made sense for Taz and ECW why that belt existed, and I actually think it made sense to use it as part of Team Taz in the early days of AEW. It ran its course years ago. Realistically, I don't want to harp on this too long. The story should have been that someone else had it for a long time, and Hook came and got it back, and that's how it retired.
Well, I mean, Jericho kind of.
But no. Like, I'm not talking that like weird story. I'm saying like Hook never had it. Like, Hook should have never had it. And I know that there was a big thing about him winning it the first time, so maybe he should have won it and then lost it, and then he stepped away from it. He was done with it, and then someone had it and just wouldn't give it back to Taz, like physically, just saying like, this is mine until someone beats me. It's mine. And a long ass time went down until finally Hook stepped. I'm just saying, if you're gonna keep it around this long, but it's gone, so we're okay with that. Then we have Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay, the United Empire.
Ryan still can't do the hand signal.
I did the hand signal. Versus the Young Bucks, Matthew Nicholas Jackson, in a insane tag match to best describe. I mean, these are some of these matches where this is one of those matches where I'm like, what do I call out? I mean, there's just move after move. You think it's over this time, and that guy. So I'm going to stick with what I do best, is just a story. And the story of this match was that the United Empire was winning, and they were beating the Young Bucks. I mean, from most of what I saw, is they were the ones who had the closest pinfalls most of the time. They were the ones you thought were going to do it, but it all fell apart because Don Callis gave a screwdriver to Kyle Fletcher to use. And Kyle Fletcher was tempted to use it, and Ospreay had to step in and say, not like this, and that cost them the match. They got distracted and they lost. And even commentary pointed out, like, they were winning before that. They probably were going to win if Fletcher just keeps the pressure on and never goes for the screwdriver. Now, obviously, you can make the argument that if he hits a Young Buck with a screwdriver, they're going to win too. So there is that counter there. But I think the story of this match was that they had the United Empire was kicking butt. And that I liked that. I like it was and now listen, I want the Young Bucks to. I like the Young Bucks with the belt. They just need to defend it more regularly, because look at the matches they have. They keep doing this. We're golden. So Joe, would you have used a screwdriver, and what do you think of the match?
In hindsight, yes, because it's either got or be gotten, and they got. Because in the end, it was the Bucks who used the belt and cheap shot them. So you really just cost yourself the match. And it's interesting, the whole Callis family storyline is really hanging by this the screwdriver. I feel like that's been the one thing that kept everything together. And the match itself, though, was a sprint of remembering how good this formation of United Empire is, with the two of them almost being like a younger version of what the Bucks were in their earlier years. It was just a lot of fun with a lot of combinations and tag team moves. I mean, I don't think I have a lot of spots to call out other than Fletcher taking that TK driver on the apron.
Oh, that was awesome. Now there's a couple comments in chat. Kyle Sparks saying he was hoping this would bring Mark Davis back. I don't know if Mark Davis is healthy yet. Apparently he really messed up his wrist. Like I don't know more than that, but to be out this long, you must have really messed up your wrist. I still think there's a built-in story where Don gives Kyle the choice of either do the honorable thing with Will Ospreay or not, and then Kyle goes to Will. They start beating them both up, and Mark makes the save. I still think that's a story that exists, but if Mark's nowhere near coming back, I think the story is that it's Kyle turns on Will because it's natural. Scott George has seen that Kyle costing Ospreay next week. Like that is, if there's no Mark Davis, that is the natural story to tell. The All-American Robbie Matthews want to know what we think of all these groups. I personally like the groups. New Japan does it. I like it. I've always been a fan of stables.
Well,
having grown up,
even WWE is doing more of it now.
They have, but having grown up, my heart of my wrestling fandom in the '90s, so the Attitude Era of the Monday Night Wars, everyone was in a stable. So that was what, and I love it. And I love it for a couple of reasons. As the All-American points out, you get more people get TV time. You have feuds that are easy to set up between groups. They're just in an opposite group. Two of our guys are feuding. Well, the rest can feud. Like you just have instant, and you can float in and out of them as you want. So just because a guy's in there doesn't mean he has to always rely on them. He just use the New Japan style. They're there when he needs them. They're not when he doesn't. But it gives a feel to it. I mean, I know if I were a wrestler, I'd want a group behind me.
Well, I think it's just natural. Like in any kind of workplace, most people have a group of people they associate with at work. It's like back to your faction in your department, your 5 buddies that you talk with. So I think it's natural to have a group in wrestling.
Yeah.
You love horses?
I do. Wild horses.
The 4 horse.
But yeah, I like stables. I think they make sense in wrestling. And I do love horses. We have a conglomeration interview where we find out that Rocky Romero is part of the conglomeration. Now he gets his T-shirt, that very impressive artwork on that T-shirt. And then Mark Briscoe just goes off, and it works because Kyle O'Reilly reacts. That's just how it is. But then we have the more important thing of the night. I'm not even going to stay there. Tony Schiavone's on the stage, and Prince Nana comes out, very serious Prince Nana, and starts to have a conversation. Basically, where's Swerve? How's he doing? All that. Nana starts to reply. He's doing well. He's getting back together. And then he's interrupted by a Mr. MVP. That's right. The rumors that MVP was coming to AEW were well-founded because here he is, which I'm guessing means the rest of the Hurt Syndicate follows, which would be, well, at least some of it. Bobby Lashley for sure, and there's talk about Shelton Benjamin too, so that would be awesome. MVP's by himself tonight, though. He comes out and he hypes up Swerve. This run was incredible. Puts out a bunch of stats that even I didn't know, how long it had been since he was pinned or submitted, all this good stuff. And then says, but then what happens? He gets his child at home burnt down. He gets beat to hell. And he blames Prince Nana for that, saying, like, that's not Swerve's fault. That's your fault. His basic question is, why is Hangman still walking? Like, if someone did that to my guy, that guy would be gone, which I don't know what MVP actually expects Prince Nana to do. Swerve just got his ass kicked by him. How's Prince Nana supposed to do something? But that's not the point. Swerve hands Prince Nana his card saying, not Swerve, MVP hands Prince Nana his card saying, if Swerve wants to talk business, to give him a call. I have predictions on where I think this story is going to go. But before we get to that, the segment and your predictions on where you think this story is going to go.
Thought the segment was fun. I figured someone had to come in and interrupt it when they announced the segment to set up Swerve's next feud. And, having MVP come out there and kind of challenge for Swerve services with Nana, I think that'll be fun to watch how that plays out. And I think it would almost kind of would have been funny if Nana just didn't take him seriously and just started to dance in his face. But I think in the end, I think we might get it ultimately leads to Swerve versus Bobby, right?
Yeah. So I think, my question is, the way this plays out in my head is all based on how long they're going to keep Swerve. They're going to, so we've heard how long they want to keep Bobby out of the company. Not only out of the company, but off TV, I should say. Because the story is that MVP tries to get Swerve for more than a week. It has to be several weeks, if not a month or two. And Swerve says no. I guess you don't want to drag it out that long. So for about a few weeks, you want to have him chase Swerve for a few weeks, with Swerve distinctly being like, no, not a chance. Mm-hmm. And then MVP being offended, and he brings in Lashley, who beats the hell out of Swerve for surprise attack.
I almost think that he might bring in Shelton first, and then have Swerve and Shelton go at it. Swerve can win because Shelton can take that loss, and then Bobby comes in as a, kind of a you didn't see this coming guy, and then he whoops Swerve's ass.
There's a chance for that too. That's a story too. But either way, I think Lashley comes in to surprise attack. To surprise attack Swerve and beat the hell out of him. Or Nana. If you don't want to write Swerve off TV again, I guess you don't have to make the attack that vicious.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to write Swerve off the TV, the attack's not that vicious. Maybe someone stops it early, or you do it to Nana. Now, I wouldn't want to write Nana off the TV for that long either, because Nana's really over with the crowd. But you could have a returning Nana pop, which would be a lot of fun. Swerve needs help, and Nana shows up.
Yeah, I'm with what Kyle Sparks is saying about Shelton and Swerve for Wrestle Dream, and then Lashley attacks, and then I think you get Lashley and Swerve at full gear.
That's fair. You could have Lashley lose. It's just how he loses.
I don't think he'll lose his first match.
Maybe. He's someone who can, though. He's Bobby Lashley. He's not. I'm with you guys. I don't see them having him lose his first match. I won't disagree. But he is Bobby Lashley. He's not a newbie that no one knows. He was He was a champion in WWE. He was a champion in TNA. He's well established for every crowd. But you're right. They probably don't. They don't have him lose his first, so that makes more sense. The All-American Matthews agrees that he can lose. But I'm just saying. All right, you move on. We have a commercial that feels like a straight out of Batman with the scapegoat driving a bus. Listen, if WBD, if Warner and AEW have cut their deal, you have to do some tie-in with the goddamn Penguin show. These vignettes feel. I know this just driving, but they feel right out of a Batman movie. The one car there and the way they're pulling out, it just feels like, I don't know why. And I think it's because it's the kind of truck he's driving. That's always the kind of truck that a criminal drives in a Batman movie. So I don't know. But anyway,
I just need Samoa Joe to come rolling in an ice cream truck.
Well, you could do that too. And then that works. So then you come back from that and you go to your women's championship match, which was really quick actually. And you have Mariah May versus Yuka Sakazaki. It was quick. Yuka does that weird spin thing on the ground where she wraps her legs around Mariah's arms like reversed and then just rolls to make her dizzy. I can't explain it well. It's cool to see, but
it's like a merry-go-round of.
Yeah. Mariah wins with a Storm 0, but after the match, I think the reason they did the match short was because they wanted the whole segment to be long. Because after the match, you have Mariah's set up to attack Yuka with the belt, but then Willow shows up. So clearly, Willow is being set up as the next challenger, which is awesome for Willow. But then Mina Shirakawa's music hits, and Willow turns her head, and Tony attacks her. But Mina looks like, no, I didn't want this to happen. And then, not Tony, Mariah attacks her, sorry. And then Mariah goes running out and gives Mina a hug, like, oh, you're here. And Mina's like, I didn't want this to happen. Yuka chases Mariah away. So you still have the Mina and Mariah story, and you have now Willow as a contender. My thing is this. I believe Mina didn't mean it. I do think that was I do think it was intentional on Mina's part. When in wrestling, wrestlers know there's a reason it's a trope in wrestling. Wrestlers know that if you play their music, who's ever in the ring is going to look at the entranceway to see what's going on. And I think Mina did it on purpose. That's my thing. So 1, how did you feel about the match? 2, did she do it on purpose? And 3, do you agree with Big G that Mariah has to stop winning with Tony Storm's moves? Go.
The match, for what it was, I liked it. I liked the fact that Yuka started off early and attacked Mariah before the bell. I liked how that kind of played off of her being angry about getting clocked over the head with the belt last week, so it made sense. It felt, watching Yuka in this match felt like watching, like Orange Cassidy when he tries, right? Like, it's this fun character, but then they, like, when they want to really go, they can go. So that's kind of what I drew comparisons to. But after the match, I guess I wasn't expecting Willow to come out, but that'll be fun. I was expecting Mina to be there. And I do think Mina initially sides with Mariah. I feel like Mina plays a better heel than a face. And eventually, I think Mina will get double crossed by Mariah, but just not now. I think they'll set up that tag match with Mina and Mariah versus Willow and Yuka. And to Big G's point about Mariah using Tony's moves, I think you use them until Tony comes back. And then Tony can win and beat Mariah, get her win back, and get her moves back and all that. So,
yeah, I mean, I definitely think Tony gets her win back at some point. And I agree with Jesse with respectfully Mina. So then we go to the main event. And I don't know how to describe this. It was Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin. The match starts with Moxley just knocking down Darby in the mouth and on the ground. Then he puts Darby's mouth on the ropes and kicks the ropes up, so Darby's bleeding out of the mouth, which I'm hoping was a blood capsule. And I think it was based on some of the stuff that came out of Darby's mouth later. But it was vicious looking. And then at one point, Darby has Moxley's arm in the ring post, like up top. I've never seen that before. He starts elbowing it. It was very cool. Moxley was beating Darby so bad at some point, but he couldn't beat Darby that the crowd started chanting, "You can't kill him." Then on the other side of it says, "Yes, you can." Darby did a drop kick on Moxley. There was a chair on the outside that Moxley was sitting in. Darby jumps out, drops kicks from there. Eventually, Moxley does win with the Avalanche DDT to become the number 1 contender for the AEW Championship. I'll get to the post in a second. What did you think of this? It was a very violent match without being like a no DQ violent. It was like it was actually surprisingly. It was an awesome way to do this. Like, no thumbtacks, no glass. It was just like old school violence. I actually think it fit them both very well. How did you feel?
I couldn't agree more, because I feel like that was the point of this build, was that Moxley was saying that Darby wasn't ready. And for this match to be this chaotic and filled with mayhem and brutal. And with Moxley coming out on top, I think that proves his point that, Darby wasn't ready to do what it took to win. And when Moxley and, Marina, they remove the padding from the outside, and then Darby does his suicide dive and misses and lands on the outside, on the exposed ground on the outside. And then he just slammed into the steps by Moxley on his back. I was surprised that he lost this cleanly, but I think the bigger story will be fun to watch. And I think Darby will come back around and beat Moxley, I think, when it counts.
Yeah, I do think that's on his, that's like a moment for him. I don't know if Moxley's the one to take the title from Bryan, then to me the story, that's how Darby should get the title. Because Darby at some point should have that title. He's been such a huge player in this company. Have Mox have a great run, and then Darby gets his shot. But it's like, you could never beat me, and then Darby beats him.
I think it'll be Mox. Darby beats Mox, and then Christian and Mox and Darby will have a little program again.
That would work. So after the match, Danielson slips in with the necktie, which is an excellent callback to the reason he got fired from WWE back in the day for choking Justin Roberts out with his own tie. And he wraps it around Moxley's neck and starts choking. Marina tries to put a sleeper on, but she can't quite get it hooked. And I actually loved that. If you looked at both of them, did an excellent job there. She made sure her arm was up in a certain way, and he made sure his chin was tucked. So, she didn't have the sleeper on. And I actually think it was a great... They didn't sell it like a normal wrestling thing to be like, oh, he's just not going out. No, she couldn't get it. And then Claudio Castagnoli and Pac come out, and they start beating up on Bryan. But then Private Party with Commander comes out, and that's because they've been feuding. So I'm glad Private Party's getting shine here. I love Private Party. And then they all, I guess the BCC, I don't even know what they are anymore. They flee the ring. Bryan says Mox wanted a war. Well, he declares war. He gets his shot at WrestleDream. What'd you think of this ending?
Well, of course, you got a shot at WrestleDream, because that's the whole point of the match. He took Darby's shot, so I didn't understand that part. The aftermath was fun. Like you said, I'd like to call back at the tie. A part of me wished that we would have seen Bryan sneak in and steal the tie off of Justin Roberts himself. If he were yanked it off of him and took it and used it, or they went and took a shot of Justin Roberts looking all disheveled without a tie on. But I think it's fun with Private Party being in the mix. I don't know how long they'll be in this main event type of mix, if it'll go beyond Collision really. But it's good to have that kind of shine and give Bryan some backup. Not real credible backup, but backup.
Not credible yet. No. I'm hoping Private Party becomes credible down the road, but they're not credible yet. But
right.
I still don't know what happened to Scorpio Sky and Private Party. That was going to be a thing for a while and just does not seem to have panned out. Though maybe they bring him back for, I don't know. I love Scorpio Sky. I don't know what's going on there. And then there was chance when Bryan was starting to get beat up. There was chance of Yuta. Fans would have loved him to make his moment. It wasn't time for that. But that's going to come to a head. And I legitimately don't know which way of he's going to go. I don't know if he's going to turn on Bryan and be gung-ho with this new evil group, or if he's going to stick up for Bryan and go his own way, get his ass kicked, and then be a face and go his own way. Do you have any thoughts on where you think he'll go? Which way he'll go, I should say?
It's tough because, like you said, I can see it going either way. I don't know. I mean, I can see him going with the whatever the BCC is now, but at the same time, I don't know if they need him right now because they added Marina. I don't know how big you want to make that group. them being 4 people, I think he's big enough. I don't think there needs to be 5 or 6 people. But again, if Yuta doesn't join, then he's kind of on an island by himself.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with them.
See, I think he obviously he wrestles tonight because he's supposed to do the collision title defense with the BCC. So
Yep.
I think he begrudgingly does that, and then like you said, like he has his, devil or angel on the shoulder moment at Wrestle Dream to decide if he needs to, cost Brian the match or not. And I guess my gut would say he costs. Yeah, I think he cost Brian the match. I'll go with it. But I don't know if he necessarily goes with BCC.
Agreed. So Collision is filming tonight for anyone curious. Obviously not going to talk about any spoilers. It is weird. And it's not a spoiler. I'm saying nothing that happened, but I'm saying it's weird that they filmed the Jack Perry match before Dynamite. It's just weird to do it. I also think it's weird to have a match based on a surprise show up, not be the thing that you do on your live show. But that's such a minor little complaint that I'm not going to say anything. So yeah, that was the September 25th episode of Dynamite. Another quick one tonight, but just been good shows, but there's not like quick doesn't mean it's bad. It's just we're plugging along, I guess I'd say. Like there's nothing here to I'm blanking on what I want to say. Like and I'm not I don't care, not defending our time. I'm more saying like it feels weird that we're quick, but there's nothing bad for us to bitch about.
The show was, it had 4 or 5 matches. A couple of them went, the Brian and Nigel match went a decent amount of time. So yeah, the only thing really short was the women's match per usual sometimes, right? And I'm trying to think of the Hook and Rise Strong match was dominated by commercial breaks.
Yeah. Plus, there's nothing in overall in AEW. I would say there's nothing bad right now. I'm not saying everything's wonderful, spectacular, great. When I say bad, I don't know another word to say, but I mean nothing that's going to cause you and I to go on like a 20-minute diatribe about how awful this thing is.
No.
At the same respect, nothing happened tonight that's going to cause us to go on a 20-minute explosion of love, where we go this is the greatest. I worked that one out in my head. I was like, I got to.
As long as you work it out in your head, not elsewhere.
Yeah. But where we would go Jesse Jericho wasn't on tonight. Where we would say let me spend 20 minutes on this wonderful thing, this amazing. Listen, when the Warner deal gets announced, I know we've talked it to death, but I'll probably speak. But we probably have an extended conversation on that. Or if someone, if when Lashley shows up, which we're assuming probably speak about that longer. But tonight it was really good, but it was all matches that moved quick, and that's just I'm only bringing this up because it kind of feels weird to me. I'm like, what? But sometimes, I enjoyed it. It's they're doing well enough that there's nothing for me to be like, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah, it was a good show. I just said I usually base my feeling on if it's a good show of how I felt the pacing went, and I thought the show went pretty fast tonight. And usually that means that I'm really engaged and invested in it, and I lose track of time. And by the next thing I look at the clock, it's over. So I thought it was good, not great, but 7-ish, 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah. I would have said probably 8.
Yeah.
But it's all subjective. But so yeah, it was nothing. There's nothing to go extensive on yet. But and neither you or I are the type to call wax poetic about spots and matches. We're missing our person for that.
And to the point though, some of these matches, it would have been so hard to call, like you said, call out things like the Darby Moxley match was like a car crash. The tag match was just nonstop, transitions. Nigel and Brian, they probably had a lot of moves that we probably don't even know the names of anymore.
Yeah.
So,
what I will say for those watching, what I appreciated about every one of these matches, there was a story. You could tell what they were trying to say. You had Brian and Nigel was the return. Like, can Nigel do it after all these years? The real animosity there. The Darby versus Moxley is you can't kill me is basically what that match was. The Young Bucks versus the United Empire was the United Empire might have been the better team. Like there was constant stories, and I love that. But that's us for tonight. Joe. When you are not here, where can you be found?
Well, Ryan, you can find me on social media at _Asian Joe. And in my bios on that, you can find the link to my cereal review blog. Yes, I finally did one. If you missed it, I published a new one about the cookie butter cereal. So if you're curious about cookie butter cereal, go ahead and read my review or go to Walmart and buy a box. I don't care.
Spoiler. I want a spoiler. Was it good?
It was much like this episode of Dynamite.
That's all I needed to know. Okay. Well, when I'm not here, you can find us on all our socials at MarkOrderPod. You can follow my history blog here for history.com at _here for history. I know I keep saying it's been tough, life gets in the way, and that's not a thing I can just write on the whim. There's a lot of research that has to go into each and every one of those, but I am working on it. And we will be back next week. I think, assuming she doesn't big time us again, we should be joined by Kate. And we'll see how she liked sitting behind a curtain and why is she not actually a Nigel fan since she didn't cry. I'd like to thank those in the chat, Scott, Jesse, Kyle, Eric, All-American Robbie Matthews, Big G, Kylie. Thanks for showing up, talking. It's always much more fun when there's people in the chat. And with that, I put up the banner first I'll hit the music. I'm going to reverse this. I'm going to hit the music first. I usually do the banner first, but
This concludes the Mark Order Podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Join